4 boys and 4 girls. And I'm just basically going to tell you a story about, first, about what happened to my family. You guys probably don't know the story of the kissing case in 1958. I was born in 1961, so this happened before I was born. So I'll tell you the story. In 1958, there was these little kids playing together, black and white kids, in Monroe, North Carolina. And this is a small town in North Carolina in 1958. So these little black and white kids were playing together, and they were, playing, killing spiders and stuff, and they were ages 7, 8, 9 years old. And so one of the little white girls went around, at the end of the day, and she kissed, a couple of kids, just gave them a kiss. Said, okay, all right, bye. So they started to go home. And so on the way home, the 2 little Negro boys, at the time they called them Negro boys, but now it's black African American. This is the correct term, politically correct term, African American. So the 2 boys that were on the way home, they got stopped by the police, and they're ages 7 and 9. The police stopped them, grabbed them, threw them against the car, pulled out their guns, beat their heads against the car, and threw them in the car and arrested them. And took these 2 little boys to jail, threw them into jail, and took them down inside of the jail. So this is not like, it's like a dungeon where they took these 2 little boys, ages 7 and 9, remember. So what happened was the little girl went home and she told her mom in the conversation that, we were playing today and Billy kissed me, or she kissed somebody. So they found out that the person that she kissed was a black kid, okay? So the black kid was, one of the kids that she kissed, and it was just an innocent kiss, a kiss on the cheek. And but when her mom and dad got a hold of it, oh, they went crazy. So what they did, they switched things around and said, oh, it's a rape charge. They turned it into, did he rape you? What did he do to you, honey? So they went looking for the little boys, and they called the police, and the police locked the boys up. So what happened was they got charged with rape. Okay, it was a rape charge, and they switched it around, said that it was rape, that these 2 little boys raped this little white girl, and that is not what happened. So it divided the town, black against white, and everybody was upset, and this is a small town. Now you got to remember, the people were kind of getting along, in the South at the time, but it divided the town, and so they said these 2 little boys raped her or something like that nature, and everybody was all in uproar and everything, and so they sent the district attorney from the state capital of North Carolina, from Raleigh. So they flew him down to Monroe, North Carolina, to prosecute these 2 little boys. It turned into a case, an actual case in the courts. And at the time they had this law in the books called miscegenation law. And miscegenation is where there's no at the time there was no interracial relations with black and white, where you can't have sex with that person, you can't get married to that person, and there was a law on the books. And the law was anti-miscegenation law. And that meant that blacks and whites couldn't get married, blacks and whites couldn't have sex with each other, and if you did, you could be prosecuted and go to jail for it. So they used that law to try and prosecute these 2 little boys. So the little boys went to jail. They didn't tell the parents where the little boys were. And they were ages 7 and 9. The 9-year-old was my older brother, okay? The 7-year-old, now you gotta understand, these kids are ages 7 and 9. What does a 7-year-old know about sex? What does a 9-year-old know about sex? They don't know anything. I got 4 kids myself. I got 4 grown kids. I got 5 grandkids. So a kid age 7 and 9, they don't know anything about sex. It's only what you teach them. So these are innocent kids playing. So now the kids are in jail. The police don't tell the parents where these kids are. They don't tell them anything. They just beat them up and they put them in jail. Grown men beating these little kids. So the Ku Klux Klan, they came out and they said, where are those niggers? We're gonna kill them, and they were trying to bust into jail to get these little kids to hang them, okay, to hang them up at the nearest tree. And that's what happened at that time. So if you did something crazy as a black person, or if you looked at a white woman wrong, or you whistled or did anything like that, then you got taken to the nearest tree, okay? So that's real. So they were gonna kill these little kids. They were in the bottom of the cell. So finally, a couple of days later, someone called my mom and they got in touch with her and said, hey, they got your son in the jail down there, and they got your son in Fuzzy. His little friend name was Fuzzy. David Fuzzy Simpson And my brother's name is James Hanover Thompson. So they went by the nicknames of Fuzzy and Hanover, okay? My older brother's name is Hanover. So they kept him in jail. My mom and her friend, Miss Jenny Simpson, they went down to the jail to try and get him out. Of course, they couldn't get him out. But the mob of people showed up at my mother's house. So this is a mob of people with shotguns and everything, you know, Ku Klux Klansmen and the White Citizens Council, you guys know what that is. These different organizations to, you know, to cause havoc in the community, to keep black people, you know, afraid, you know, fear and all of that stuff. So they showed up at the jail to, they showed up at my mother's house to kill her and my brother. But fortunately, my brother wasn't there, you know, he was out, you know, and the police caught him later. So he wasn't at home. So they showed up at my mother's house, and I know this because my sisters told me what happened. They showed up at the door, knocked on the door. They said, "Where's Eb?" My mother's name is Evelyn, so her nickname is Eb. So they said, "Where's Eb?" And you imagine all of these people outside your house with shotguns and bats, and, you know, with rakes and stuff, ready to kill these people. And so they knocked on the door, "Where's Eb at?" And my sisters, they were little kids at the time. And back then, you know, your parents would go to work, and you know, my mother, she worked for white people. She ironed their clothes and did domestic work. So my mother actually worked for this family and knew this family. Okay, they knew the family, so everybody knew each other in the community, and the kids played together. But this little incident caused this whole thing. So they showed up at the door. "Where's Eb at?" And so my sister said, "Well, she's not here." And well, where's that nigger Hanover? That's my brother. So he wasn't there, fortunately. So you got these men standing there with double-barrel shotguns, you know, and everybody's ready to kill them. So they weren't there at the house, fortunately. So they left. And what ended up happening, they kept the two little boys in jail for a long period of time while this thing played out. And what happened, people protested against it, and it was just a bunch of confusion, you know, where whites and blacks didn't mingle together. But the little kid coming home saying, "Oh, I played with such and such, and you kissed him on the face," and it was an innocent thing. So it was just a little kiss, a little kiss on the cheek. You know, just, you know, okay. And it just got blown out of proportion. And so what happened, they kept him in jail, they beat him up on a daily basis, okay? Came down there, "We're gonna kill you." And they told my brother, "You know, you're a rapist, you know, you raped the little girl," you know, and they told his friend that, and they were ages 7 and 9. This is a picture of them here, on this shirt here. This is my brother here with the hat, and this is David. Okay, he was 7-year-old, he was 9 years old. So they put him in a reform school in Jackson, North Carolina, and kept him in jail. And they told him that, "You're gonna be sterile, and we're gonna make you sterile." They probably did make him sterile, because neither one of them had any kids. You know, I don't think David has kids. Maybe David does have kids, but my brother had never had any kids. So what happened was they kept him in jail, and they beat him up and everything, and told him all this crazy stuff. And my brothers, they didn't know anything. You know, 7 or 9 years old. My brother didn't learn how to write his name until he was in jail. He learned how to write his name while he was in this reformatory school. So that was a good thing that came out of it. And they made him cook and stuff and kept him in jail for like 9 months, you know. And so what happened was the district attorney came down to prosecute him for anti-miscegenation law. This became a big case. The NAACP got involved, okay. Robert Williams, who was a famous civil rights attorney, he got involved. Robert Williams was the president of the NAACP in Monroe, North Carolina at the time. My dad was the vice president of the NAACP at the time in Monroe, North Carolina. So they both were military veterans. I'm a military veteran, retired Navy veteran myself. So they were the pillar in the community for the black community. So they stood up against the racist authorities in the community. So no one would take this case on. So Robert Williams stepped up and said, "You know what? I'm going to support this family. I'm going to stand up against, you know, this wrong that's being done to these two families." And so the NAACP at first they said, no, we're not going to get involved in that. Those poor little Negro families, you know, forget that. We're not going to get involved in it. Let it play out. So what happened was Eleanor Roosevelt got involved. Eleanor Roosevelt called Dwight Eisenhower President Dwight at the time. So the president got a call from Eleanor Roosevelt, said, listen, this thing that's going on down there in Charlotte, in Monroe, North Carolina, you need to get down there and handle that. Because people around the world are protesting in the streets against the United States for these two little boys being in jail and these families being ripped apart, because of this misunderstanding about this thing, this kissing case. So at the time, every day at 6 o'clock, there was a 6 o'clock news. There was a famous news anchor by the name of Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite would give the news every day at 6 o'clock. And at that time, during that historical era, he was talking about two things. The Vietnam War, okay, that was going on, and this case in this small town in Monroe, North Carolina. And that was what was going on. So every day he would give an update, as things progressed. So people around the world were protesting in the streets. What's wrong with America? What's wrong with them? Shame on America, shame on America. You got those kids in jail. Why do you have those kids in jail? Places like Rome, Amsterdam, Holland, Greece. Everybody was marching in the street. They were saying Americans are crazy. Why do they put these two little kids in jail and run this family out of town? They ran my family out of town. The Ku Klux Klan. They came, shot my mother's house up. She'd get up in the morning, shoot bullets off the front porch, and they ran us out of town. So where they ran us out of town to was 30 miles away. We had to move to Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay. Me and my younger brother was born in Charlotte, North Carolina. Out of 8 kids, me and him were born in Charlotte. The other 6 was born in Monroe, North Carolina. So a lot of times I feel cheated that I didn't have the privilege to be born where my other siblings